Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here with Ashley Hicks. What's up, Ashley?
Hola.
And then Joe and Kyle are here as well. Hey, guys.
Yo.
Yeah, whatever.
All right. So enthusiastic. How about you give us your amazing updates, Kyle?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So since we had to batch content a couple of weeks ago, haven't really done one of these in a while.
Do you just like letting the cat out of the bag on like everything that
all
we
the
do?
time?
Yes.
Just like
just let things go. It's fine. They
any
don't know.
secret we have, you're like, no, people have to know it.
People have to know. Yeah. Well, anyway, other people said that their updates were going to be super good, and apparently my life has been pretty boring. So my only update is I got new running shoes yesterday, which is pretty fun. Actually, the first time I've ever actually been fitted for shoes that fit properly. So it's kind of nice having shoes that actually fit the way they're supposed to.
Did they have you run in a few pairs?
Yep, sure did. I went to an actual running store.
What brand did you go with?
I went with Brooks.
Nice.
Brooks.
That's what Liz wears.
Yep, they feel pretty nice. Actually, I did the conditioning today, the 50 minutes of conditioning today, and they felt really nice.
When you say 50 minutes of conditioning, what did you do?
Oh, it was running.
You ran for 50 minutes?
Yeah, since I had running shoes. Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
I mean, I know, right?
Well, zone 2.
Yeah, it was zone 2,
Still.
so quote unquote running.
I just know of the four of us, you probably hate running the most, and you did it for 50 minutes straight, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I do. I figured I'd give these bad boys a test run.
Yeah, what a way to break them in.
Just got them, yeah.
And how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Yeah, there's no pain now, which I don't have an excuse.
That should have been a huge indicator. You're like, wait, running's not just painful every step that you take?
I thought it was just supposed to be that way. So now I know. No, it's not supposed to be that way. So, yeah, anyway.
Phenomenal update. I did like that one. That was good.
Thank you.
Oh, that was a good one.
Who's next?
Joe can go.
All right. Well, how are things?
Are you
asking yourself?
Yes.
Let's tell Joe how things are for him. Right now.
Yes. It was a weird segue, so I had to start fresh. I'm currently at the beach, so I am recording this while on vacation, so you're welcome to all of my fans. I mean, to all of our listeners out there. And
Team Joe.
Yes. And I am actively, because I'm with my family, I'm actively trying to get my niece to call me Uncle Giantsbane.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
And in my defense, it wasn't even my idea. Somebody else came up with it. My brother-in-law first said it, and he was like, oh, wait, no, that's actually a cool nickname. I was like, nope, we're going with it. So that's happening. I've been doing a lot of barefoot training. So this has actually started before I came to the beach, because where I was staying, there's a turf field. And I know my Achilles has been bothering me a lot, and I just realized I haven't been doing a lot of lateral stuff, a lot of powerful stuff. So I was going to the surf field and wearing socks, doing side shuffles, backwards runs, and then jumping and all that stuff. And now I'm at the beach, and I've done 2 run days barefoot on the beach, and they've been going pretty well. A little sore on the calves, a little sore on the feet, but not as much as I thought it would be. So the opposite of Kyle, to where I ditched my running shoes and I'm going barefoot.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a good idea for me right now.
Yeah, it's a little different, yeah. But I think it's really good for like rehab, prehab, just like mixing it up a little bit too. I think I started to because I've only been wearing running shoe, like actual good running shoe, for 2 or 3 years now. And they were great for a while, but now I just think it's almost become a little bit of a crutch. So I'm just shaking it up.
The shoe crutch.
Yeah. So it's great. At the beach, working out on the beach, not wearing shirts ever.
And here we are. And none of us, we were talking about this before we started recording. None of us, Kyle. Kyle is home. Ashley is not home. I don't have a home. Joe doesn't have a home. So if the recording doesn't go that well, that you know why. Talking to the listeners here.
Yeah.
All right. So did that conclude your updates, Joe? That was
That's
pretty
it.
light.
I didn't have anything too much. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. See if Ashley can
I
bring
can't
it
just
home.
steal the spotlight all the time.
I was hoping for another like hygiene update, but
I mean, we can go into that if you really want to, but
no.
that's fine.
okay.
I mean, I haven't worn a shirt or footwear since I've been to the beach, so there's that.
That's true. There's probably fungus on your toes.
Exclamation point on this whole nomad lifestyle.
Yeah, and I don't know why I keep getting tagged in those posts in the Facebook group. And so just so anyone out there, I feel like I've been tagged 2 or 3 times, people talking about ring fungus or whatever. That's all Joe. Like, I had nothing.
Look,
I've never had any sort of ring problem.
It
I'm
happened
good to
one
go.
time, all right?
So just you tag Joe. I mean, I will happily read it, but just so we are aware of who had the issue. Definitely.
Well,
was
the
not me.
most recent ring rash one was about the outer arms doing dips. So like on those, that's what it was talking about. Anyway, Ashley, what's up? See, I'll segue for you. You don't have to ask yourself.
Oh, thank you. I made it to Texas. I traveled with Connor alone. That was fun. He actually didn't do too bad. Praise the Lord for iPads and snacks. My gosh. But we're in Texas. We're in Dallas. So gonna hang out with the Moon family actually in a couple of days. So we will see you in your nomad lifestyle here soon. We're gonna do a play date.
Depending
with
on the
kids.
day. Where
Yeah.
are you?
Well, we're gonna.
Full
I
moon
might
or
not
half
see
moon?
you. Do what?
Full moon or half moon?
It might be a half moon. It might be the better half of the moons.
Wow.
I like Emily. And then, yeah, I'm still on my elimination diet. So this morning I literally had to go to the grocery store and buy so many things because, my dad and my stepmom just don't eat the way that we eat. And that's totally fine. So I went to Walmart, and Walmart here has so many better options than Walmart in Niceville, where I live in Florida. I don't know why that is, but it was fantastic. I thought I was going to have to do 2 separate trips, like one to Sprouts because there's a Sprouts down the road, and then one to Walmart just to save a few bucks. And I got everything done in my Walmart trip. So there's that. I don't know if it's like a regional thing, but
The Walmarts are better around here. I know we've done, like, you can get organic stuff, and yeah, you can get a lot at the Walmarts around here. And having lived a lot of other places, they generally do suck.
yeah, most definitely. So I was pleasantly surprised this morning, and we went really, really early after Connor woke up. So there was nobody in there, but yeah. And then workouts for me they're still looking different and finally getting in the hang of things. So just doing lots of things at a slower pace, and that's completely fine. And sometimes I have to like break workouts into 2 days, and instead of doing Meet Yourself Saturdays, like last week I did, there were like 2 parts to Friday, and I ended up doing the lower body half on Saturday, just because I didn't have enough time because I'm moving so slowly, but that's okay. I can't get my heart rate above 75% for everybody listening if you're confused. So, but yeah, that's me, Jared. What is life looking like for you right now?
Yeah, just homeless, as mentioned. So Airbnbs, parents' house, all the stuff, waiting to officially move into a new house. So I'll keep everybody updated on that. But man, I'm not enjoying this time right now, fitness-wise. I have a sandbag and kettlebell, but I'm just actually missing the barbell, and I didn't think that I really would, but I just feel weaker than normal right now. And I'd like to, eliminate that by lifting something heavy. So it'll be nice. I'm still, a couple weeks away from was that a ghost?
Did I hear you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know how you've done it this long, Joe. I'm doing it. I guess all said and done, it will be a month without a barbell, and that's going to be more than enough for me. So that's going to be tough. But yeah, I mentioned it on one of the previous podcasts of not going to no gear or anything. I'm trying to do hard to kill to the best of my ability with the sandbag and kettlebell. And it's changed some things. Obviously, like when I have programmed heavy weight for the stimulus, it doesn't work out as well, but I just end up still doing the movement as heavy as I can. And I can actually get pretty heavy because the sandbag, I have about 150 pounds, and then I have the 72-pound kettlebell. And I found out, at least for deadlifts, I can put the kettlebell in the center of the sandbag and lift it. And so, good 200 plus pounds there for weight. So that's been going well. Other than that, I tried a new experiment, taped my mouth shut while I was sleeping.
Oh man.
And
no context. Just leave it at
And
that.
survived.
no context at all. So I read the book Breath by James Nestor. I think we might cover it as one of the books of the month here on the podcast. And he was just talking about nasal breathing and how good it is for you and how bad mouth breathing is for you. And I was like, he was specifically goes over this like mouth taping. So you tape. I'll let people Google it if they want to, but you tape your mouth shut essentially with surgical tape that's like hypoallergenic and stuff. You don't do it with duct tape or Gorilla tape or anything like that. You gotta do it with something that's safe. And then it doesn't have to be the full mouth. It's just like basically trying to keep your lips together. So I did it and I was curious. I was like, well, I track so much data. That's why I wanted to do it. Especially the Oura Ring gives you so much data. And there was nothing. Absolutely nothing at all that happened to me through mouth taping. Maybe if you suffer from sleep apnea or you're a big time mouth breather, it'd be really beneficial. But I mean, resting heart rate is the same. My sleep quality was the same. It wasn't hard for me to fall asleep. So I think my theory is that I already breathe out of my nose while I'm sleeping, but there's no way to really know, right? Unless you do that. But anyway, slept with my mouth taped shut as an experiment, and the results were nothing. So no change, should I say. No positive change, no negative change either, other than, having my mouth taped shut.
All right.
Whenever you say mouth breather, all I think about is Stranger Things.
Yeah.
That's all I think about. Jared, I know you won't get
Is that
That's
a
okay.
pop culture reference?
Yep, it
Yes.
is. We're just going to move on from there.
Yep.
Is this what,
I'm not
one
going
of
to explain
the
it to you.
one of the books that you guys read?
No,
No, it's a show on
TV
Netflix.
show.
TV.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't think people know. So Ashley, Joe, and Kyle
Oh no.
read a lot of fantasy books. This is fine.
Yes, we do.
I don't, and they make fun of me for it. But the team has grown.
We don't make fun of you.
No, I get. You guys have your own thread in Slack where you just like make fun of me. I know it. And VD and Marco have really balanced the team out. They don't enjoy fantasy.
Added some squares. That's cool.
And so I really feel like we need to. I mean, I don't know if we add two people to this podcasting mix, if that gets a little crazy, but
A little bit.
I'm just saying, there needs to be balance.
I mean, it's fine.
We don't talk about fantasy.
We don't really
books.
talk about
Sure
fantasy books on
can.
the pod.
Stranger Things is a TV show. So to think that you haven't even heard of Stranger Things is kind of crazy to me. I didn't expect you to have seen it, but that you never heard of it.
Are there unicorns in it?
Yes, there are. Let's move on.
All right, the study.
All right. We are talking a little bit about caffeine, specifically caffeine in females. Thought you would like that, Ashley. And the big reason here is we've talked about caffeine a little bit on the podcast. I've also mentioned multiple times about caffeine and creatine being, the most proven supplements for performance. And yeah, anyway, I like this one because the actual name of the study is a low caffeine dose improves maximal strength, but not relative muscular endurance in either heavier or lighter loads or perceptions of effort or discomfort as task failure in females. Goodness. It just I hate it when they just give away everything in the study. So yeah, there you go. Anyway, we've talked about those high dose caffeine, which are ridiculous amounts of caffeine. this 500 milligrams, 600 milligrams, and it's supposed to be to your how many ever milligrams per kilogram of your body mass. But this one's low dose because I don't think any of us are in the high dose caffeine camp. Actually, you're still off caffeine, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And Joe, Kyle, you guys consume caffeine, right?
Yep.
My minimal
one good
amount.
pour over a cup of coffee a day, which is kind of high. But
How do you consume a minimal amount of coffee, Kyle? I mean, is it coffee? Is my question, I guess. How do you consume caffeine?
Yeah, I mean, I have a caffeinated coffee every now and then. Most of the coffee I drink is just decaf. So,
So do you drink caffeine every day or just like occasionally?
Occasionally, like maybe twice a week.
Yeah, that's
not very often at all. And it's because of I feel like it is one of the triggers for my migraines. And so I just kind of stay away from it for the most part. Some days I'm kind of dragging. So I feel like I need some, I'll have a cup and it'll be fine. But I used to have it every day and I was having migraines more often at that time. So when I was having caffeinated coffee every day. So, but I like the taste of coffee. I like having something hot to drink in the morning. So I still drink like decaf coffee, but I don't drink full calf coffee very often.
Yeah. So Joe and I don't know, we're probably moderate. Ashley was until recently. Probably
pretty
moderate.
Yeah.
Caffeine drinkers, not on the high end, but definitely not on the low end. So these doses, what was it, 100 milligrams? It was 19 physically active female participants between the ages of 18 and 35. And I don't think what they did as is important. They did just because a lot of it was kind of machine based on an isokinetic dynamometer.
I had to read that word like 5 times and
yeah.
I still don't think I got it right.
So I don't think that matters, but they were basically measuring maximal voluntary contraction. They had a muscular endurance test, and was there something else? I think time to failure, something like that. Anyway, they were looking at all these different performance measures with
perceived
low dose
effort too.
caffeine. Yeah, that's what I was. That was that third one I was trying to find there. And it comes down to, they said 100 milligrams of caffeine, but it was less than 2 milligrams per kilogram of body mass. So if anybody wants to calculate this out for themselves, and they found essentially that it helps, not in an amazing way, and then it didn't really help with muscular endurance all that much. There was a difference, but they didn't find it to be statistically relevant, I guess. And that's basically it. So it helps even at low doses is kind of my takeaway. What takeaways did you guys have?
So I agreed with the help. I said, it seems to benefit the strength. And the thing to note for me that I thought about, that it helped with strength, these females were not resistance training prior to. So that was another thing for me. Like these females probably have been doing, I don't know what kind of workouts, but that was one of the stipulations for them to be in the study. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah.
So they weren't resistance training, and then, they used the low doses of caffeine, and then they were able to see the strength improvements. So, anyways, but the thing that I would caution people is if you're using caffeine as some sort of stimulant for, let's say a pre-workout, and they say to use it an hour prior, I would be very, very careful if you are working out in the evenings. So when I was consuming coffee, I would not drink coffee after 3 p.m. just because I go to bed at around 9 p.m. So that gives my body like 6 hours. And even then the caffeine can still stay in your body, and everyone's different. So you kind of have to figure out, like, I know Emily, Jared's wife, can't consume caffeine she couldn't even do it before noon or something like that. So
like 9 a.m. for her. She's ridiculous with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody is different. So I would just highly caution people, if you are going to, this is easy to try out, right? So, but I would just caution you, if you are in evening, maybe even after dinner workout person, maybe I would not play around with this, is what I'm trying to go.
Yeah, my cutoff is 1.
1 p.m. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, But yeah, that's pretty much my takeaway from this one.
I think one cool thing that they did with the study is because I think we've talked about it a few times where they did their testing and their appointments at like in the morning, whether they were fasted or not, and consuming caffeine. But this one, they actually gave them like a time window and told them to pick the time that worked best for them when they would normally train, and it just kept that time consistent. So that was cool because it actually catered to how somebody might train versus like if you don't never train at 8 a.m. and then making people come in at 8 a.m., then that's just gonna kind of mess up the day to some. They some of the other things were a little weird, like the random order of testing, how they went to do certain tests, which I don't know how the data was. I don't know how they were. I don't know why they did it that way. Basically, whether they were doing the placebo or different caffeine or in which exercises when versus keeping it all the same. Another thing I noticed was that this might kind of help their data a little bit. It'd be interesting to see the load numbers for it, but they instead of keeping with the same weight and then testing the max in the endurance reps, the muscle endurance, they were increasing the weight as they went. So they almost retested their max each time and then did their endurance off of that, and it still increased. So that was kind of cool, but interesting as to why they did that.
Yeah, it's like a rolling max.
Yeah, so like even though the reps or time increased, their load also increased at the same time, which was kind of interesting. But as I mentioned before about caffeine, I don't even finish my cup of coffee before I train. Usually I might only get halfway through it or a third through it, and that's good enough, because if I have too much, then I think it kind of makes me either nauseous, dizzy, or not dizzy, jittery or something like that. But I also don't wait like a full hour or two after I have my coffee.
I would say to experiment with it a little bit over time, especially if you're somebody who doesn't normally consume caffeine, which that's, kind of how it is for me. It's like, I don't really notice a difference on the days that I do have a cup of coffee. It's not really a difference, mainly because I'm typically training before I have my coffee anyway, whether it's decaf or caffeinated. I'm training early in the morning before I have my coffee and go to work. But I would say, especially because that's something that the participants in the study they were adapted to coffee. They were regular caffeine. They were ingesting caffeine on a regular basis. They weren't resistance training at the time, but they were adapted to caffeine. And so if this is something new that you haven't tried before, you haven't tried caffeine, maybe you're looking at a supplement that has caffeine in it, and the label on this supplement is, touting caffeine is something that's going to give you a boost and things like that. It could, but you could also have some negative side effects to caffeine depending on how much it is in there per serving and depending on how many servings you use. So I would say move into it a little slowly and just be aware of how you specifically react to the caffeine. As far as the study goes, it did say that the low dosage did have a positive effect on their strength, but at the same time, these weren't women who were currently resistance training. And so it could have simply been, some kind of gains coming from actually doing some resistance training, as opposed to actually being the caffeine boost. Because the caffeine didn't seem to affect them in any of the other parameters they were measuring, not in statistically significant ways anyway. But they did all see strength gains, but it could have been from the caffeine, or it could have simply been because they weren't used to resistance training anyway. So those are my takes.
When it was tested against placebo per individual, right? So, and it still tested better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's most likely from the caffeine in some of those instances, but not the muscular endurance. I was just trying to see where you're going with that, Kyle. Are you saying they're just getting stronger naturally, and so maybe the caffeine is not as much of a factor?
Yeah, that's kind of what I could be completely wrong on that, but that's kind of the way I took it, is their strength is going up, but the caffeine is not affecting them in any other way. So
I think it's both. I don't think there's a wrong or right there. I think it's both. I think, and maybe this is why, to Joe's point, maybe they increase the weight every single time. Just because I think that makes up for because they didn't talk about why they did that, but now, you saying that and then Joe mentioning it makes me think that they were just trying to make up for that, whatever you want to call it, the honeymoon phase of strength training, right? Is like if we're readjusting your max every time you walk in here and adding weight, it kind of does away with the beginner mentality.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I don't have much to take away other than what you guys took away. I think it's interesting. You can just have a small amount of caffeine and it's going to have some sort of benefit in your performance. And it doesn't have to be these massive doses, because if you go look at the literature on caffeine, and I know we've talked about this before on the podcast, it's just, they are massive, more than any of us would really want to consume. And I think it's crazy that some people do consume these, and like in a habitual matter. I could see like, okay, I'm going to try 500 milligrams of caffeine before an event if I had like already tested it in training to really, increase my performance. But if I'm just like a garage gym athlete going out to train, today, like I can't see taking these 500 and 600 milligram doses every day to make sure I'm like training at peak level performance every single day. So that's why I really like this one, because low dose still works. It just might not be as effective in every area, because if you look at other caffeine studies with those giant doses, it basically makes everything better. It's like a superpower drug. It's just, makes cyclists better at cycling, makes strength athletes stronger, makes you think faster. It really does do a lot of good. With it comes some bad, as with all things, but even in these low doses, it can help you out. And I think a typical cup of coffee is like 120-ish, 150 milligrams. So if you're just having one cup of coffee, then that's about all you need to see some sort of performance increase.
Pretty much.
That's about it. All right. Get to the topic. We're talking about the book.
Yeah, for Jared, it's the book.
The One Thing is the book. So we're covering the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller, and we will just discuss it, get everyone's thoughts on the book. I can't wait to hear Ashley's thoughts on it, because she often says that the book stresses her out. So I love to hear it. It is my favorite book. It's kind of the book I go to for just work and staying focused. What are you guys' thoughts on the book, The One Thing?
I'm just going to talk about the multitasking portion, which I really liked, on how, it's eliminates so much of what you might be doing, so much stress. And they were saying there's fewer things for more effect instead of doing more things with side effects. So if you're doing less things, then those things that you're doing are going to be so much better and are going to go to your one thing. Versus, I think people get in a mindset of they need to do more, always be doing more and adding more, and just it kind of helps to what they were going for, eliminate some of the grind, some of the useless grind that, whether you're an entrepreneur or doing something for your job, for your work, having too much on your plate. I think if you're clearing up some of your plate, you're going to be doing what you need to much better. And, the hard thing is probably just finding out what you're going to need to cut out to get to your one thing. So that was one thing that was one thing.
Nice. Everyone's only allowed one thing.
Got it.
That's going to be tough for me to only say one thing about this book. I really like it. And ever since, I know, Jared, you said that you read it once a year. Ever since you said that and I read it the first time, I've done the same thing. I think I've read it 3 times now. Just trying to refocus on things. But I guess if I'm only allowed to share one thing, then I'll share.
You can share as many things as you want.
I'll share something practical, and it's what he calls the focusing question. And obviously, read the book. There's so much in there that will be very helpful to you, especially for your mindset regarding workflow and how to accomplish things and build habits and things like that. But he calls it the focusing question, and the focusing question is really simple. It's, what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? And so if you're trying to narrow it down to your one thing that you need to do today, then that's the question to ask. And it's kind of like what we do with goal setting here at Garage Gym Athlete. And when we do coaching with people, we ask them what their goal is, but we try to take them several levels deep on why, right? So we ask, all right, what's your goal? Okay, why is that your goal? Okay, why is that important? Okay, you want to make this change. Why is that the change you want to make over other changes you could make? Or why is making this change right now important? You know, we try to ask several things, try to go at least 5 levels deep on why. Why is this the goal that you want to go for? And it's kind of the same principle here with the one thing, only you're going even deeper than that and narrowing everything down to just one thing. And it needs to answer that question. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? And it's crazy to think about, and it's actually kind of stressful to think about because we're used to having a bunch of different things to do. But when I actually implement this, which I don't do it regularly like I should, but when I actually implement this, I find how much easier and simpler things get when it comes to accomplishing what I need to accomplish. So that's something practical that I took away from the book, and hopefully it'll be really helpful to other people.
So Jared is right. This book, the first time I read it, really stressed me out. I think I texted Jared. I can't tell you how many times I was like, "What do you think my one thing is? But what do you think that I should be focusing on?" And poor Jared, I felt really bad for him because he had talked about how awesome this book was, and I read it and I was like, I failed at this. Like, I suck at this. So instead of focusing on like the negative of that thing, what I think is wonderful about this is he talks a lot about how to focus and how to make something small turn into something big. So he has this thing called the Domino Effect, right? So it's one thing at a time and you build from there, just like, you see dominoes fall and whatnot. But, and he talks about how success grows from something small, and then can grow into something large. But you have to focus on one thing at a time, because to piggyback on Joe, you don't really multitask. And when you multitask, you're not giving your full energy, time, mental capacity to whatever it is you're doing, because you are so focused, split in many different ways instead of focusing on one certain thing. And then I love how he talks about discipline and how a habit, I think he said something about like 66 days it takes, an average of 66 days to create a habit. So he talks about don't give up on it. Like it's going to be slow process, but it's okay. Like, give yourself the grace and keep continuing on and try to continue on that habit. But I will say an application for me, I've talked about it multiple times on the podcast, and the guys know I love my planner. I have a written planner. I use Google Calendar. Google Calendar is fantastic. So my husband and I can both look at it and know what each other's doing. But a written planner for me is so much better because I am able to write some to-dos, and there will be multiple to-dos on that list. But after reading this book, I will then star like the one thing I have to get done for the day. So it's like, if that means I have to fold that laundry so Scott has a flight suit tomorrow, that's the one thing I have to do today, and everything else can wait. But yeah, the book is great. It is funny as an overall arching, what's your one thing as the overall thing. That is what stresses me out the most, but it is a great book, and has some fantastic takeaways. So definitely give it a read.
So like with the one thing, it's not about like narrowing it down to just accomplishing one thing for the day, so like actually what you're talking about is like, okay, I need to fold that laundry. Okay. Kind of the mindset that he wants you to adopt is like, when you get your one thing done for the day, it's a successful day. You know what I mean? No matter what else happens that day, if you get that one thing done, then you have a successful day. But it's not about just picking one thing and doing it and then being, okay, I'm done for the day, because I have my one thing.
Right.
Asking that focusing question brings you, it's not about doing the one thing, it's doing the most important thing. And that's what it's about. It's about narrowing in on the most important thing, so it's not just picking one thing and doing it and being done, so it's not a way to like escape responsibility. It's a way to like take ultimate responsibility for like, it doesn't matter what else gets done today. This has to happen because this is the most important thing. And so once I get my most important thing done, then other things can follow. But I'm focusing on this most important thing until it's done. And then I can call the day a success. And so that's kind of that I felt like I needed to highlight that as well. It's not just about picking one thing and doing it. It's about focusing on the most important thing and doing that one thing.
So Kyle disagrees with you.
I know. I was like, Kyle gave me the smackdown, not Jared.
Oh, really? I was trying to agree with you. I
No,
apologize.
for sure. We're saying the same thing, right?
I apologize.
No, you're fine.
For everyone listening, I was trying to agree with Ashley. I just didn't do it the right way. My fault.
I actually just love hearing everyone's interpretation because I don't know, maybe I disagree with Ashley and Kyle. I don't. So how I view the one thing is just reverse engineering what you want from the big picture. You can zoom out 50 years, 10 years, 5 years, whatever, and then you have to go back and making sure that every action you're taking all the way down to today is a domino effect, essentially what Ashley is saying, all the way to that thing that you are ultimately trying to achieve. So that is how I look at it, is what I'm doing today going to affect what I want in 10 years. So that's the one thing to me. Put in the most simple terms I could possibly do it. Now, what stresses Ashley out, stresses a lot of people out, because I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of different people and business owners and everyone else about, okay, what is my one thing? And that is the hardest part of the entire book. And you could probably spend an entire week, 10 hours a day doing some self-reflection, prayer, and anything else to try and figure out what you basically want your life to be about. And that's why it's stressful and that's why it's hard. So for Ashley to say that it's stressful, like, I just think that it should be. Like, it should be that. And I feel like if you're not feeling that, then you've either devoted some time to this to think about it, or you're not thinking about it enough. So there should be that stress element to be like, am I making the right decisions? Because when I really did a deep dive on this, and I've worked, with Gary Keller and other people like in person on these things, so I feel like I have an unfair advantage on, like, if you get to talk to the author about, like, they didn't write it, they can almost like, oh, well, here's what I meant by that, And so having done like a goal setting course with Gary Keller on, like, okay, what do I need to focus on? He's not going to tell you what to focus on, and none of us can tell you what you need to focus on, but you can be led in the direction of, like, I don't know what you want your life to look like in 10 years or 20 years or the end of your life. But whatever you do, whatever that picture is, if you can start reverse engineering that little by little, I have 3 different areas in my life that I try to work on that ultimately are going to help me achieve what I want, like writing the book, Killing Comfort. That is something that I absolutely wanted to do. But for me, that is 100% a legacy thing, because there's so many other things in business I could do to make money that aren't a book. I've talked about this on the podcast over and over again, like, books, unless you are selling like 1 million copies per year, which is like 0.0000001% of authors, books aren't that profitable in general, and they take a lot of time. And so it's way more of a legacy thing for me. And, I think that it helps our community because all of our Garage Gym athletes have, a lot of them have read it and implemented that stuff, but it's not like this big, like, overarching, let's make millions of dollars selling books. It's more of a legacy thing. Like, hey, here are my thoughts. I want them on paper and published. So it's something that just people know, my kids know, and my grandkids know about. And so making decisions where I'm not, when you're a business owner, you might think that everything needs to be about revenue. And that's obviously not the case when you're making decisions about legacy and things like that. So anyway, you just have to reverse engineer a lot. Now, getting into the tactical, this is where I also think people screw it up. I just had a conversation with a guy this morning about it, trying to focus on one thing. And this was my mistake at the beginning, is shutting everything else down to be like, okay, I got it. I got the big picture. I got the 10-year. I've reverse engineered the whole thing. I'm down to what I need to be doing today. But then it's like, okay, I'm only doing that. I'm not doing anything else. And that's not realistic for anybody. And so it's almost what he actually recommends in the book is a 4-hour window every day that you should be working on your one thing. And then the rest of your day is your own to handle life stuff, to do whatever you need to do. But that 4-hour work window should be, focusing on these like big rocks, big strategic moves that are going to move you forward in life. And I don't even think most people can even realistically start with a 4-hour block. I think you have to get down to like, can you commit to 30 minutes of one thing time today? Then bump that up to an hour, then 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours until you can get to that. And that should be focused, uninterrupted work. You almost need another book to help complement with that. And Deep Work by Cal Newport, something like that, is another great book just on execution of really focused work. And so I think being able to work on those strategic moves, however much time you have every single day. And I know when I'm not getting that type of work done, I feel very agitated and irritated because I don't like just doing busy work. It bothers me. I feel like I'm not moving forward. And that's going to be different for every single person. Like we all have that quote unquote busy work and just our lives. Like Ashley mentioned laundry, like I do laundry and that it sucks because it never ends. It's one of those things that just like, it will never stop, and so it's not like the most productive thing that we could be doing, but we have to do it, right? And so trying to focus on like one versus the other of strategic versus life tasks, I think is the hardest thing for people to differentiate on. And so it's just how much time can you spend in each area of your life each day. And I could talk for a lot longer on the one thing, but I think that's good. All right, Kyle, was I right or wrong?
I'm not going to say that you were wrong. I'm going to say I need to go read the book again because I didn't get it, I guess.
I've read it like 19 times. So no, that's just my view of it, because I do think everyone can have their own interpretation of it. Like a lot of people just read the cover and they're like, I get it. But, he does go down into, and what confused me about the book is at the end is he's like, I'm like, oh, great, we're super focused. Like everything's one thing. And then he's like, surprise, you can have one thing for multiple areas of your life. And I was like, okay, now I'm confused again. So that was one part of the book that I just wish wasn't even in there, because he made it seem like, oh yeah, we're focused, we're working on this one thing. And then, and it's hard to find, like, if you really look, like, how do I find a one thing that's going to help me focus on my business, but also my family and also my personal health and growth. And then like you try to find that one thing and he's like, oh, you don't have to, you can have one thing in every area. And I'm like, damn, okay. Then it makes it a little bit, maybe that helps other people, but it actually ended up confusing me more.
So you actually have like 5 one things.
Yeah, you can have like
for these different compartments of your life.
Yeah, and that's kind of what he goes over in the end, like with the, what's the one thing you can do in your spiritual life? What's the one thing that you can do in your family life? What's the one thing you can do in your business life? All these things. And so if that helps people, that is another way that it could be executed.
That's more beneficial for me.
Yeah. And yeah, easier to implement. So
definitely.
What's the workout?
Condition me to the grave.
Oh, that's a good one. Anybody have the brief available? I do.
Almost recited off the top of your head.
I was like,
probably,
yeah,
though.
I was like,
yeah, this one's kind of hard though. Well, I know I've only ever done it with machines. So I actually,
no subs.
The subs are harder for me. So with machines,
I got the subs in front of me.
All right, I'll do the non-sub version, and then you can brief the sub version.
Okay.
So 100 cal row, 100 calorie, that's calorie, 100 cal airdyne, 100 double unders, run 1 mile. 75 cal row, 75 cal airdyne, 75 double unders, run 1 mile. 50 cal row, 50 cal airdyne, 50 double unders, run 1 mile. 25 cal row, 25 cal airdyne, 25 double unders, done. And 60-minute time cap is the hardest part about that.
Yes.
Finishing all of that in under 60 minutes is very challenging, but a lot of people have done it at this point in the community. So that's if you have machines. If you don't have machines, what do you do, Kyle?
You're going to do 100 sumo deadlifts. You're going to do 100 box step ups. That's total, not each side. So 100 total box step ups and then 100 double unders and run 1 mile. And then the 75, 75, 75, 1 mile, 50, 50, 50, 1 mile, 25, 25, 25.
And the sumos are with a kettlebell. And it's also not all or nothing to where if you don't have, like, if you just don't have a rower, but you have a dying, you don't do the entire sub thing. You can just, it can be a 1-for-1 swap. So you can do step ups and a row or whatever it is, yeah. But running's just running, or you double that for bikes. But you should probably run. If Kyle can run, you can run.
There you go. That'll be a t-shirt now. If Kyle can do it, I can do it.
I just had to digest that one for a minute. I was speechless for a second. All right, so tips on this one.
Oh my gosh.
Tips on condition me to the grave. Yeah.
I said you have to shut your brain off and just go on this one. And even when you do, I am not one of those people who have finished this with all the machines. I've used substitutions and I have easily finished it. So I think the substitutions, while they mimic the motions of what you're potentially doing, I think they are significantly easier. And that's not to say, I'm not dissing on the subs here, but
the sub version is much easier than the machine version. So I'll diss it for because I created it, but I haven't, like I said, I haven't done it, but I see people finishing the without machines. They're like, 42 minutes. I'm like, okay, I did something wrong in the programming of the subs there. Maybe I shouldn't have maybe made 100 box step ups per leg or something like that was probably the mistake. But yeah, sub version still hard, but much easier than the machine version.
For sure. And then, of course, I get some good jams, get some good tunes. So whatever gets you moving, that's always going to be my little my tip there. So, yeah, this is a fun one though. So make sure you push yourself on this.
Actually, I'm just envisioning that meme of the guy who has 2 buttons to press. And he doesn't know which one to press, and yours is like either go hard or get good jams. You're just like, which one am I going to go with this week?
I went with both, so there you go.
2 hands, bam. Yeah, I think you just need to survive on this one, and whenever you're at 60, then really the biggest tip or whatever is do it once, see where you are on each pacing, see where you are on where you finish. Like you're probably, if you do your first time, you're probably not going to finish it unless you're like really dialed in. And then the second time you do it, see if you can go farther, see if you can get farther into your cals, into your progression of that workout. But if you need the pacing, Jared has a pacing chart, which kind of kicks him in the butt sometimes.
Why does it kick me in the butt?
Well, because you've said before that you look at that pacing chart and you're just like, man.
Oh yeah, I thought you meant from like a support perspective.
No.
Yeah. Kyle, what are your tips?
I said on the subversion, try to do the box step ups unbroken. So it's really similar to, or kind of my mindset of it was how, Jared, you recommend on Murph to do the air squats unbroken and do them really, really fast. It's kind of the same thing. I say do the box step ups as fast as you can. Stepping up that many times can get kind of monotonous and your legs kind of start burning a little bit and stuff. So you're going to want to stop, but just don't stop. That's something that I think you could really kill a lot of time by doing those unbroken, kind of make that a challenge for yourself to do them unbroken. But also, ultimately, my biggest tip is remember that if I can do it, you can do it.
There you go. So I would say if you are in the community, I try and remember to post it when we have this workout coming out. But if I don't, you can search it. Just search pacing card in the Garage Gym Athlete community if you're one of our members, and you can find the pacing card. I don't know if that helps you. It helps me because, it's like it lets me know if I'm on track to finish it. And I never actually finished it until I made a pacing card, which was funny. Like I needed to see how hard to push it in each of the different areas. I think I would I don't know which one it was, but it was either the row or the air dyne. I would
probably the air dyne.
Go through the motions instead of pushing as hard as I could. And so if I wasn't paying attention to my pace, I'd get capped right at the end. And so when I am, And even when I finish this one now, it's not like, oh yeah, that was easy. Like 45 minutes. I'm still clocking in, high 50s when I finish this thing. I don't know what my fastest time is. I can't recall it off the top of my head, but it's a tough workout every single time. I would say mentally, remember that this is, it's a pyramid. We're starting with a wider base and it's getting smaller each and every single time until there's not as much work. So those first 100s in a mile are going to feel like, wow, that took a lot of time. Oh, and it did, but it's getting more. And then I think 75 is probably the worst mentally, because you really feel like it is impossible to finish when you're in the 75s. You're like, it's not going to happen. Like, it's just not, there's no way. But then it gets significantly easier in the 50s and the 25s to just knock those out really fast. But the 75s are the hardest part, but just know, like I said, you're chipping away. It's getting, exponentially smaller each time. The amount of work that you have to do. And so it is possible to finish. And if you've never finished it, I would set this as a goal, as like something that you should be able to do before you die, at least one time.
I'll be 40.
This is your life one thing.
Yeah, I'm picking your one thing in the physical category of your life. And it is condition me to the grave, machines completed under 60 minutes.
Hardest part's over. We decided for you.
Exactly. I'll be fine.
You know what? Yeah, I think I said I can't decide for you, but I just did. So
that's fine.
Write that down.
Yeah, I can't. I have a funny story about this workout, which I guess I can share now.
I think you have to now.
There's so many times where you're like, yeah, this happened, but oh, well, the cat's out of the bag. Here we go.
So I actually had to go to the emergency room after this workout one time, and I've never told that story to anybody, but I'm telling everybody now because, okay, here's the deal. This is where mental toughness, it comes into play. I'm not so much worried about pushing myself hard. I'm worried about pushing myself so hard that I hurt myself. That is my fear. Like, that's my fear these days, is like, oh, was that like, and this happened when I did the marathon. I did the marathon and like my body was jacked up and I was like, okay, apparently you might be able to push yourself beyond things that you should even do. Like, cause you shouldn't have done that. And that kind of happened with this workout. It was really cold outside. And I pushed myself really, really freaking hard. And my heart had like an arrhythmia afterwards. But then it just went away. So it was, I talked to the doctor, was like, this is not a problem. He was cool with it. He was actually a triathlete himself, which was a good thing. Because you go to an emergency room and you never know like who you're going to get, it could be like some big overweight doctor. And he's like, yeah, I would not work out. Do not do that. But he made everything fine, but I normally would have never gone to the emergency room is my point. But I was around a bunch of family. I think I did it around Christmas or something like that. And I was just trying to I was just sitting there and I was like, yeah, it feels kind of weird. And they're like, you need to go in. I'm like, I think I'm all right. Like, I really, I think things are going to be fine. This is kind of like what happened when I ran the marathon. And they're like, you have 3 kids. This is not a joke. Like, you need to go in. And I'm like, okay, I will go. And so I went to an emergency room reluctantly, and turns out everything was 100% fine with me. But I did go. So that's my funny story on, is it funny? My story on conditioning.
It's hilarious.
If you found $5, did you find $5?
Did I find $5?
Yes.
No, I paid way more than that to go to the emergency room for something $5. I didn't need to do. So anyway, the moral of that story is push yourself to the level you feel comfortable with, and then don't listen to your family when they're worried about your safety. Okay, that's it.
There we go.
There it is.
And that's what we'll end with.
I guess Kyle's ready to go. I was just getting comfortable, but we will end it there. I think Kyle has a good point. If you guys,
it's just our natural spot after we brief the workout.
I like giving you a hard time. You were the person this time. Yeah. You disagree with Ashley, and it was really, really mean.
It didn't even mean to. It still happened.
All right. And I'm getting back at you for revealing all of our secrets every time.
Breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah. All right. If you're still listening, that's great. I'm glad that you're still here. If you are still listening, you definitely follow our programming, because I don't know who else would still be here at this point. But if you, for some reason, made it this far and you're not following our programming, you can fix that problem by going to garagegymathlete.com. You can do workouts that send you to the emergency room and also follow some really solid programming. Well, okay, here's the deal. Meet Yourself Saturdays are optional, and they are not the true planned, programmed awesomeness that we program throughout the week on every single track. So don't worry about Meet Yourself Saturday. If you had to guess, what percentage of our athletes do you think do Meet Yourself Saturday?
60?
60%? You think so?
It might be going a little high, but
I think it's probably like 20%.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I would have guessed more.
Yeah.
Sounds like a challenge.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people look at Joe does Sexy Saturday sometimes, and then some people just don't want to do it. So anyway, that's it. Go to garagegymathlete.com, grab a free trial. If you are one of our athletes, thank you so much. Appreciate you more than you know. We're out. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.